Well, I apologise for this next one because you need a magnifying glass to look at it. So if you feel under your pews, there might be a visual aid to help you. Sorry, there isn't. We forgot to put them out. I'm going to use these little bottles, and I think these are dead sweet. Now, there's a trend at the minute for little glazed pottery. I don't know if you're sort of, looking in interior design magazines or that type of thing. And there's little pottery houses and little pottery urns, and it's a real funky little thing. Now, I quite like those because they're just lovely on their own, aren't they? You don't need to put anything in there, but they equally look nice with a few blooms into here. And again, I've just picked a few bits from the garden, which I bet loads of you have got this stuff growing in your borders. And it's something that I absolutely love, and it's a Astrantia. Astrantia, or its common name, is masterwort. And ladies and gentlemen, if we were in here sat in All Hallows Church back in Victorian times, and it was a wedding that we were celebrating, then most possibly the bride would be carrying some of this in her bouquet, because Astrantia was a really popular bridal flower, and its common name was the pincushion flower. And in those days, of course, they would have big, long trailing bouquets, all wired, so florists would spend hours wiring Astrantia. But if I am honest, I feel quite sorry for those brides who carried those bouquets with Astrantia in, because although it looks very pretty, it's not got the most pleasant smell. So I hope they mixed it with something else, like lily of the valley or sweet peas or roses. Because if you've got a lot of Astrantia, seems a little bit like that, it's fairly neutral, it doesn't matter. But if you've got a lot of Astrantia and you're sort of near it, then you start to look under your feet, you think you've trod on something, because it's not the most pleasant fragrance. But perhaps in Victorian times they didn't care that much. They didn't bath that much, did they? I know hygiene was getting better, but not so wonderful. Well, I'm going to put something in here which smells gorgeous, and it's that little bit of stuff which is called calamentha. And it's a cross between a catmint and a mint, a normal mint. And it's a really pretty little thing to grow in your garden. Got a few little asters. You all have these in your garden at the minute? Yeah, some September flower. Smells absolutely lovely. Such a nice thing to have. And salvias. Now, who can remember when you planted your gardens up? You had blue and white lobelia, some French marigolds perhaps, a bit of white alyssum, perhaps a row of antirrhinums. I did this in my granddad's garden here in Harthill, and we used to have something called salvias, and they were always red. That's all you got, scarlet red salvias. You know, they were like brazen hussies in the garden because they were scarlet, really bright red. But now we get so many different salvias, and they're quite posh, they're quite on trend now, used at Chelsea quite a lot in the Chelsea gardens. And this is one called Salvia Armistad. And this is outside my kitchen door back at home, and it stands about 5.5 foot tall. Really, really big. But you have to lift it indoors during the winter time because it's not frost hardy. A little bit of verbena in there. Now there'll be some of you who've come along here because you're not really that flowery. You think, well, come along and listen to that bloke who used to live at North Anston and see what he's up to. And you'll be hearing all these flower names and you'll be thinking, oh gosh, I didn't know we were getting a botanical lesson here. And people always say, why do you have to call them such posh names? Why can't you just call them a common name? And that is what people used to do, wasn't it? Nothing had these sort of posh botanical names. But when I go abroad demonstrating, I'm not a great linguist by any standards at all. But if I'm working abroad, then if I say, a common name like masterwork for Astrantia, they don't know what I'm talking about. But if I say Astrantia, they know. If I say salvia, they know. So, giving them the proper names means everybody knows what you're talking about. But they are hard, aren't they? Hard to remember. People always say to me, how do you remember all them names, Jonathan? And sometimes I think, well, I'm not quite sure how I do, because I can be talking to somebody in mid-sentence and I forgot what their name is. And I'm getting to that age now where you think, what did I come upstairs for? I don't know if anybody else does that. You think, now, I was going upstairs for something, but what was it? But that, folks, I think that is just dead sweet to put in the middle of your table. Pretty little arrangement, dead easy to make that. And again, it's just a few little bits from the garden. So we'll pop that on there.